I know it's been a while since I got anything together related to advice for fan fiction, and I thought as I try and get back into doing this, I would cover something that I may have talked about before, and that's inspiration. I've said where inspiration comes from anywhere, and one of my biggest sources of inspiration was actually a game that I'm a fan of. It's called Shivers, and it's a cult classic game. It didn't get a big following, mainly because it was done in the same style as Myst, which was a plus for this game. It worked on the whole solving puzzles, capturing bad guy type thing. And the story of the game was basically this. You are a teenager who was dared to spend the night at a presumed haunted museum. And so you make your way inside, and you find out it really is haunted, but not by ghosts, but by, I guess the best term would be demons, or the like. You see, the museum was dedicated to the strange and unusual, and somehow these creatures called Exupi got released. During the course of the game, you find out how they got released, how they got in the museum, and end up realizing you can't get out of the museum until they're gone. And you can't, let these things really get loose into the world. So you must go around the museum, solving puzzles, finding what is needed to capture the Exupi, and then recapture them. And this game, it's very non-linear. I mean, you have to have certain encounters before you progress through certain parts of the game, but that's part of the beauty of it. And part of this nature allows even for someone like me to adapt the game into a story format, and it doesn't really overly spoil the encounter. You could play the game again and again, you could have read my story, and what you get is you get a unique experience each time. But over the years that I took writing this story, I would occasionally try and find information. I mean, in the fledgling days of the internet, when this game first came out, it was easier to find information because, well, not much of the internet had come about. So what ended up happening was in 2007, when I was trying to look up some information, I ended up coming across something very unique. It was a podcast, and a particular episode that drew me in was entitled, I believe, A Night at the Museum. And it actually focused on the music of the game Shivers. And I'll admit, the music did have some haunting qualities to it. In fact, probably about years prior to that, I would catch myself humming the elevator theme. And this was after I hadn't played the game in a couple years. It's like, all of a sudden, I was humming do 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 do, which is the music you hear when you get in the elevators. Well, what I found as I looked more into the series, it was called Into the Score. It was by at the time, a gentleman learning to be a music teacher named Kenley Christopherson up in Canada. And he took an academic look at the music of video games. It was a unique concept, and it was one I actually enjoyed as I got to hear more and more of the series. In fact, over the years, even my one prior job, when I could listen to an MP3 player, I would have the episodes of the show in the playlist. And he covered all sorts of things. In fact, in the 29 episodes, the 10th one being split into two. He covered, in order, the first episode being the intro to the series, and then an episode on Mega Man 2, an episode on music of Super Metroid, an episode on Chronotrigger, then Chrono Cross, and then comparing the two, an episode on the Secret of Monkey Island franchise, a episode for the Kingdom's Heart franchise, an episode for a little heard of game, at least I think here in the States, called Uncharted New Horizons, then Final Fantasy VII, Mega Man 3, Shivers, the 12th episode. The 13th episode was dedicated to an overclocked remix project called Voices of the Lifestream. Then that cloud game. After that episode, the Castlevania franchise, then StarCraft, then Street Fighter II. In the 18th episode, he revisited a band that he interviewed in the second episode. They were called the Megas, and they basically did an album inspired by Mega Man 2. Then Final Fantasy VI, Super Mario RPG, Professor Layton and the Curious Village. The 22nd episode, which had a great impact on me, was Shadow of the Colossus. The 23rd being then Final Fantasy Tactics, followed by Earthbound, God of War, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, Dragon Warrior 8, indie game known as Aquaria, and in the final episode, which was not intended to be the final episode, Grim Fandango. Now, Kenley is very well versed, and given, typical things that go with such a project like this, he did a very good job and pretty good on some of his research, and this was a show I enjoyed. I missed it in the years that it was around. I ended up friending him on Facebook, and we've had some conversations since then, and I do what I can to promote, anything related to Into the Score. And earlier this year, prior to when I'm recording this and soon posting, he had started a YouTube thing up to bring Into the Score back, making it more video as well as musical. And I'm proud to say he's bringing it back. I encourage anyone who has listened to my advice and listens to this video to check it out. I'll put links to it in the comments section, or in the description. But, as I said, this had an impact on me with the Shadow of the Colossus episode, because prior to that, I had never heard of Shadow of the Colossus. Of course, I was always limited to Nintendo stuff and computer stuff. So, some of these games that he covered, I never even heard of before. Nor did I have any inkling of trying, if I had heard of them. While Shadow of the Colossus is a game that's on PlayStation, I'll probably never play, I got enamored by the music, causing me to look up playthroughs on YouTube, and that's what inspired me to take on the project From Their Eyes, which is my telling of Shadow of the Colossus from the point of view of the Colossi. This fic has gained great reviews. It's like the most viewed of all my fics. A high percentage, ever since its debut, a high percentage of all the hits on my stories, nearing the halfway mark, is for From Their Eyes. And that's saying something, because I've never played the game, and people seem to be flocking to this fic. They're interested in seeing the Colossi's point of view. They're interested in finding out what led to them being there, and part of the nature of the game and of how it was developed was with a very minimalistic view. You don't get much in backstory, you don't get much in detail, at least about the characters' backstories, but what you have is an immense world with beautiful details. I mean, there's probably some YouTubers who could probably just wander around the area, just soaking in the beauty of the area. And the music is even more beautiful when you hear it. I mean, the soundtrack that I've come across is about an hour and 15 minutes. And the music is beautiful. And I have Into the Score and Kenley Christopherson to thank for being introduced to that, and in turn giving me that inspiration to write this story. I invite you all to read it, and I may try and do in the future maybe a reading of that if I can get back to those things in the near enough future. I encourage you all to check out Into the Score, and hopefully Kenley will put the episodes back online again. I checked his website and he had taken them off there. But, as I said, you find them, listen to them. They're interesting, they're beautifully done, and I can't say enough. And part of that is because I'm just at a loss for words to describe in good enough detail why you should check it out. As always, I hope you find any of this information useful, and I will try and go more into the Shivers games at a later point. But until then, if you want to hear more, subscribe, you want to check out other things I put up there, please do. I'd appreciate it. Take care.